Landscape designers use variation in line weight to convey their ideas more efficiently. Here's an example. If I move to the status line and turn on line weights, you can see the drawing comes alive. So different thickness of lines and other entities are used to add punch and better communication between designer and the client. Here's another example where a cut line or a section line has been drawn through this design here. I'll just take off the grid markers for the moment. And again, if I click line weight, and if you watch that section line, it's got emphasis, and that's done by changing the line weight. So if I go back to model and we select the cut line here, notice it has line weight set to a little larger than the default. The default in gCADPlus, if we look at line weights, the default is 0.25, and that will apply to all standard lines drawn with entities. So the thickness of the line just emphasizes where the cut is, and there's the sectional view at the top. Well, here's a detail. We'll be looking at a cross-section through a bitumen footpath, and if I again put on line weights, you can see the whole drawing comes alive, and the line type is changed through here, and line thickness, and that again gives a better communication to the individual client. I like the way that the pegs are drawn here. Well, in this example, let's turn on line weights. The thickness of the flexible line indicating the border of the garden, which has been done using a Corten steel edging, stands out much better, and the footprint of the house has been also drawn with a thicker line, or the line's been drawn as a standard line, then a line thickness applied to it, and it adds more punch to design proper. More information is conveyed, I think. Well, here is a final example where if we turn on line weights, you can see that the fence line rapidly darkens up to give the boundary between the verge and the property itself. And if we concentrate on the edging, again, it's been done with Corten steel around there to delineate the garden area away from the lawn, and we've also applied line weights to the wooden path running through there, and again I think that stands out. So line weights and line type patterns, this one through here, if we select it, has been set with a fence line pattern. If we had left that as just by layer, you can see all we get is a rather boring line. So being able to change line type is quite an advantage. So if we find fence line, and we had fence line 1 I think before, let's go to fence line 2, and this time we've squared things off. If you're not happy, if you think that's a little heavy, just wind the thickness back. But if we go to 0.25, there won't be a difference between line weights on or off. So our advice is to leave formatting and line weights set, leave it set to 2.5 and leave it set to draw by a layer and apply. Whereas things can get quite complicated if you start to mix up. For example, this line has been drawn inheriting color by layer and so on. But if we change, let me look at layers, and I've just set this one up as an illustration. Layer 9 is set with color 9, is set with color red. It's a gas line type and a thickness of 0.5. So if I move that line from layer 0 to this new one that I've just set up, and someone's done quite a number of layers in this design, and then we do that. Can you see the properties of what you see here has been inherited? And let me click here, inherited by layer. So whatever the settings on the layer are, and we can still do that same trick, line weight on and line weight off. Can you see that? Just need to be clear in your mind. So I would stay away from, in this case, just setting thickness by layer, and I would set everything by default by layer 0.25, but when you want a special override, like I did here on the border of that deck, I set that to 0.4, and here I needed a special line type and a special thickness, so I set it 0.35 and fence line 2, and I stay with that symbol. Try not to mix things up. So I hope that helps clarify the use of line types and line thickness in landscape drawings.